this video, we're going to create a calendar table using DAX. In the previous video, we saw how easy it was to create a data model in Power BI. But if you're going to be doing any kind of analytics with dates, it's a really good idea to have a calendar table. And we're going to look at how to create one of those. There are actually quite a few options. You could actually import a calendar table using Power Query. You can even generate a calendar table using the M language in Power Query, and there are a few scripts around that you can download from the web. Alternatively, and arguably a little easier, you can create a table using DAX in Power BI, and that's what we're going to do next. To begin with, we're going to need to come to our data view, so select your data view button. This will activate the Table Tools ribbon, and on the far right, we're going to select New Table. To create the new table, we're going to need a DAX expression, and we're going to start with giving our new table a name. I'm going to call it calendar, and then we're going to type equals. And there are two functions that will allow us to create a calendar table. If you type CALE, you'll see there's calendar and calendar auto. Calendar auto will automatically generate it based on the dates already in your data. Calendar gives you a little more control, so that's the option we're going to use. And here we just need to specify a start date and an end date. Our data starts on the 1st of July 2017. But I can't just type that because that's obviously going to be text. So I'm going to need to use my date function, and then I can specify the year, 2017, the month, which is July, and the day, which is the 1st. So that will actually convert those values into a date for me. Now I type a comma. Now I want to make this a bit dynamic. I could use the today function and add a certain number of days onto that. But what I'd actually like to do is get the date 60 days after my last order was placed. So I'm going to need to get the biggest order date. Yep, you guessed it. I need the max function. So we're going to type max. And then I'm going to type ORD for orders, and make sure you've selected orders, order date. Close your bracket for your max function, and now we're going to add 60 onto that. Then close your bracket for your calendar and press enter. How brilliant was that? So we've seen that DAX can not only create measures and calculated columns, it can even create tables. Now, one really important step, we need to mark this as a date table. So back in your ribbon, can you click the Mark as Date Table and then select Mark as Date Table. And our date column is going to be our date, and we're going to click OK. And that way, Power BI knows to use this table for any time intelligence. If you would like to reformat your date column, just select it, come to Column Tools, Format, and you'll get some options that relate to your regional settings. Choose any one you like. I'm going to go for this one. And there's my date nicely formatted. When we start working with this information, however, we're probably going to want to be able to filter our data by year and month. So we're going to need a few additional columns. And to do this, we're going to create some calculated columns, again, using DAX. So let's start with getting the year for each date. On our Column Tools tab, we're going to come to New Column. And this first column is going to be called Year. And I'm just going to use the year function. So exactly the same as Excel. Year, open my brackets, and the date I'm trying to get the year from is my calendar date. So if you type CAL and select calendar date, close your brackets and press enter, we can now see the year for each date. And we can do something almost identical for month. So I'm going to click New Column. And I'm going to type month, but the month function is actually going to return me a month number. So let's put month number and type equals, and then MON and tab to select month. And again, I'm converting the calendar date to a month. And when I press enter, I get the month number for each month. In my charts, however, if I get 7s and 6s, it's going to look a bit odd. I'd probably prefer to have the month name. So one more column. Let's click New Column. This one I'm just going to call Month, and I'm going to type equals. And you probably know in Excel you would use the text function, but in DAX there is a slight difference here. We saw this last week. We use the Format function. So can you type FOR and tab to select Format? The value we're trying to format is our calendar date, comma, and we'd like to format that to see as an abbreviated month name. So open your double quotes and 3 M's. If you want the full month name, 4 M's. If you want the day of the week, D's. So nice and easy. Close your double quotes, close your bracket, and press Enter. So our calendar table is starting to take shape. Let's go and see it in action. I'm going to come back to my report view. And for this one, I'd like to add an area chart. So coming across to my visualizations, can you find area chart just to the right of line charts? And click. And then we're going to resize so it runs the whole way across the sheet above our existing visualizations. And I'd like to see revenue by year. So I'm going to start by adding year to my axis fields, and then I'm going to come to my order items and find my revenue measure and just tick. Now that's looking really strange. Hard to believe I've had a consistent 80 million revenue across 4 years. There's something really important I've forgotten to do. Yep, I haven't created the relationship in my data model. So this is really important. You must have those relationships for everything to work properly. So we're going to come back to our model. I'm going to tuck my properties panel away. There's my calendar table. Let's put this on the right over here. And what I need to do is grab date and link that to order date on my orders. So just make sure you've dragged the one onto the other. There's my relationship. And now if I come back into my report view, that's looking much better. So don't forget those relationships. All right, so that's looking good, except I'm a little concerned about the way my sales appear to be tanking from 2019 to 2020. So let's add another visual so we can actually get a better idea of what's happening in the data. I'm going to click into the bottom right corner, and this time I'm going to add a matrix. So just find the matrix. This looks a lot like a pivot table in Excel. And I'd like to see revenue again, so just select revenue. And for my row labels, I'd like to use month. Make sure you don't choose month number. And for my column labels, I'd like to use year. But that's really hard to read because you can see it is sorting the months alphabetically. We saw exactly the same problem in Power Pivot, but let's see how we can really easily fix this. So coming back to our data view, what we need to do is change the sort order on month. Now just click away from the month table for a moment, then just click back, and you'll see that the sort by column is now activated. We're going to click on that, and we actually want to sort the month column by month number. So this is a fantastic feature. You can choose to sort any column by any other column. And if we come back into our report view, that is looking a whole bunch better. And now we can see what the problem is. The revenue is actually being collected from July to June. So I don't actually have 12 months worth of data for 2020 because this company runs on a fiscal year basis. The fiscal year starts in July. So what we're looking at actually here is from July to June here. That is the fiscal year 2018's data. But unfortunately, at this point, my visualizations are not reflecting that. So they actually look wrong. And this is where a calendar can be so powerful because you can set it up to run according to any calendar that suits your business. What we're going to do now is go back into our data view and add a few extra columns to accommodate fiscal year and fiscal month. So back into our data view, and we're going to add a new column. And the first one we're going to do is fiscal year. So we're going to type fiscal year equals, and now we're going to need an if function because if the month is July or after, we need to add 1 to the calendar year. If it's before July, we don't need to add anything. So we're going to put our little if function in, and again, identical to Excel. Our logical test is going to be based on month number. So I'm just going to type calendar, but I'm going to select month number, and I'm going to check if that is greater than 6. If it is, I'm going to need to add 1 to my calendar year. So I'm going to type calendar, select a year, and add 1. If it isn't, I'm going to leave it as is. So calendar year is just going to be calendar year. Now I'm going to click enter. And you'll see my fiscal year for July 2017 is actually showing up as 2018. So that's working really nicely. Now, fiscal month July is July. What's going to change is the sequence. So I'm going to need to calculate a fiscal month number, which I can then sort my fiscal month by. So new column. And this is going to be fiscal month, and I'm going to abbreviate to num, is equal to, and we need another if function here, similar to the last one. I'm going to check if my calendar month number is greater than 6. But this time, if it is greater than 6, I'm actually going to subtract 6, because if it's July, I want it to be first in the list. So I'm going to take 6 away. So it's going to be month number, calendar month number, obviously, subtract 6, then a comma. If it isn't, so if it's January to June, I'm actually going to need to add 6 because those are the last ones in the list. So again, calendar, month number, plus 6. Close my bracket and press enter. And you see now July is showing up as fiscal month number 1, which is exactly what we need to sort our fiscal month. But let's add that last column. This is a nice easy one. So we're just going to click new column. This is our fiscal month. And that's literally just going to be equal to our calendar month. And then press enter. Just one thing we need to change there. We need to sort this by fiscal month number. Now let's go and fix up our report. So back into report view, we're going to start with our area chart, and I'm going to get rid of the years. I'm just going to click the little cross next to year to remove it. And then I'm going to grab fiscal year and drop it into the axis. And that's much better. You can see we've actually had a steady increase in revenue. Now coming to our matrix, I'm going to get rid of month, and instead I'm going to add fiscal month, but make sure it's fiscal month, not fiscal month number. And you can see that's sorting very nicely. And then I'm going to get rid of year, and I'm going to add fiscal year to my columns. And that's looking terrific. So really powerful feature, including a calendar table in your model. For your challenge homework, I'd like you to add day, quarter, and fiscal quarter to your calendar. When you're done, join me for the next video.